Tavern. It's good to see you. Grab your seats and settle in. We're coming up quick on the end here, my friend. What we have left. So tonight we'll do 2 chapters tonight. I think we can probably power through. Yeah, let's see. That's 2 chapters be 24 pages. So that we should be able to do that. Did it should be toned down now. Is it still loud for us? Oh, I sound low on volume. How's that? Oh, you know what? Actually, hang on. The mic probably got reset. Just a second, friends. Just a second. I need to check something. TikTok's not going to be a problem. Mary Beth, hello, welcome in. Okay. I don't know if you guys can hear me on that one. Because that's yeah, you can hear me on that one. This is other mic over here. This is being a bit of a bastard at the moment. Yeah, that's it's not it's not the correct correct microphone. See if I can fix it. It looks like the one over on. Let's see why. Hello. Nope, still not working. Hey, TikTok friends, I apologize. I'm fixing something. I missed the last 2 times. That's all right. I appreciate you, Hippie. Welcome in. It's good to see you. Knowledge base, Captain Carlson. Hello, my friends. Orm, you said I love your content. Always helps me in this crazy world. Saying to myself, I'm glad to hear it, my friend. I'm having a technical issue. I apologize. Normally, I have these things sorted. For some reason, it just is not wanting to work at the moment. Yeah, dastardly little goblins and gremlins. Marcy, hello, good to see you. The lady is resting right now. She's not sick. She's just not feeling well. She's under the weather a bit. It was hot today. Yeah, we got dastardly little computer gremlins, just causing all sorts of trouble. Maybe. Hang on. We might have fixed it. Okay. Is this better? Can we hear me? Hang on, I'm gonna check. Is that better? No, it doesn't seem to be better. Oh, hang on. Maybe it might be. No. All right. Yes. All right. I fixed it. Oh, what a bastard that was. All right, friends. I appreciate you sitting with me through that. Now, hello and welcome in, everyone. It's so good to see you. Oh, wonderful. Kirk, hello, I'm back. Perhaps I have a problem. Perhaps I am too often in the tavern. Perhaps, anyway, around the house. Thank you kindly, Kirk. I appreciate you. Welcome in. Marcy, thank you for becoming a supporter over on the Facebook portal. We appreciate that. Tips to the Tavern Keeper are always appreciated. Oh, Bear Frost, hello, my friends. Okay, so it looks like our technical issues are sorted. Everything should be all well and good and fine now. Everyone can hear me properly, correct? Victory is indeed sweet, Captain Carlson. Yes, indeed it is. We can all hear me now, right? Everyone can hear me. I'm crisp and clear, and I don't sound like I'm a million miles away or so ridiculously quiet. Kirk, thank you kindly, my friend. 500 shooting over the tavern. Enjoy your Dragonfire mead there. Tips to the Tavern Keeper, always appreciated. TikTok audio is fine as usual. Your voice is deep as the ocean. Oh, you flatter me. Hippie, you're loud and clear. I love you. Oh, you guys, you're gonna make my ego's gonna get so big I won't be able to fit through the door. Mary says it's all good. Frost says it's all good. Milo says loud and clear. Christopher, hello, welcome in. Says yes. All right. So, my friends, tonight we are in Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, and we are coming up on the end. I'm going to squeeze you guys in 2 whole chapters tonight because we're getting ready for the readathon. Once we finish this, so just so everybody is aware, everyone who likes this book, this is going to be the only book we're reading until we're done with it. So Tuesday and Thursday story times, and sometimes Sunday, will be Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. We have a little more than we have 120 pages left in this book. We're going to try and finish it up in the next week and a half. So we usually do about 20 to 30 pages a night. We're going to try and finish it up in the next 4 to 5 reading sessions. Tyson, hello. Today I was moving a little slow last night while I was working on a rear suspension on my truck. I think I messed up the cartilage connection. Oh, that's the worst because you just have to sit and wait for it to be better. If the sun doesn't show on Sundays at folks advertising, it is not. It is not. The sun actually has no obligation to show up for us, as it turns out. Bethany, I'm partially here. Well, we are grateful for the part of you that is here, Bethany. Welcome. I hope you're doing all right. So what I was saying is, up until we are done with this book, we are going to be reading it on all of the reading days. So Tuesdays and Thursdays for sure will be Harry Potter. We have not done Christopher Moore for Storytime. And again, for some of you are relatively new, so I'll go over this again. All of the books that we read during Storytime, I do not choose them. Patrons recommend them, and then you all vote on them over in the guild. Again, Kirk, thank you for the tips to the Tavern Keeper, my friend. I appreciate you. So you guys can recommend books over in the guild, which is now Discord. You can recommend those books. They get put on a list, and then they get moved up the list based on the number of people who are asking for them to be read. And then when the time comes for a new book to be picked, we put 4 to 5 books on a poll, and then the community decides what we're reading. I don't pick any of the books that we read, you guys pick them all. Esther, hello, good to see you, love. I hope you're all right. I hope you and Johnny and Elsie are all doing well. Have we decided what we're reading after Harry Potter? No, we need to decide what we're doing for the readathon, which is almost certainly going to be The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings, but we still have to decide what we're going to do, and then probably halfway through the readathon, we'll do another pick for what's going to come after Harry Potter. Yes, yeah, give me just I don't have any barkeeps over on Facebook at the moment, so let me grab a link for you, my friend. Stop it. And I'll drop this for everyone who is curious. Alright. For everyone who would like to join the guild, Mary Brandon, what? We haven't even started reading yet, friends. Thank you for the stars, my friend. 1,000 stars from Mary. You guys are creating a whole bunch of constellations over the tavern right now. Thank you kindly. Tips to the Tavern Keeper always appreciated. Here is a link for anyone who is not in the guild. That is the link to the guild. I'll post it over on TikTok as well. You'll have to copy it out, but there it is. If anybody can't get in, message me or one of the barkeeps, and we'll get you in afterwards. We're doing well, Kasu. Thank you for asking. I hope you and everyone are happy, healthy, sending love to Una and the little ones. Yes, they're all doing quite well. The lady is not feeling well because it was very warm today, so she's a bit just like exhausted. She gets really tired in the heat, so she's resting right now. But she's fine. She's back there snuggling with the cat, and the dog is holding watch. I can rarely stay the whole time. Have to pay my tab early. Mary may be the same. It's possible, and I appreciate you. I appreciate you both for it. You never need to feel the need to give anything when you guys are here. I do this. I've done this for free for years, and I do appreciate the support though for everyone who does. I know not everyone can, and every penny is deeply appreciated by the lady and I. I know. Even $1 for some of us can be a whole lot. So whenever it is deeply appreciated. But no one ever needs to feel pressured to. You can come and enjoy the stories as much as you like. I appreciate you guys for the love. Okay, friends, we are in Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. We're gonna do 2 chapters tonight, 24 pages. So we got a bit of a sprint in front of us. Absolutely love your stories. Again, Hippie, never have to feel pressured to. Never have to feel pressure to. I put out a new story every day. We're working on getting longer stories out as well. Anyone who supports it is appreciated. But just showing up and being a part of the community and being a patron in the tavern and listening to the stories and talking with the other patrons means the world to the lady and I. We absolutely adore having you all in here. It means so much to us. Jared, hello, welcome in. Castle, we understand how tough the heat must be for you too. Please send Una my warmest. I'll send her your coolest regards, Esther. And a little I'll send her your coolest regards and some warm coffee. our poor lady is washed out because of the heat. That's just an awful way. Yeah, she gets so tired when it gets hot. Her poor she's so tiny. You know, she's 100 pounds soaking wet, and she's like 5'4", and she just gets wiped out by the heat, and she has to lay down or she gets dizzy. Just a reminder: support can be liking and sharing daily video. Yeah, because one of the things that I've mentioned recently and in the past is when you guys watch the videos that we put out daily, when you show up and you watch the stream, the story times, and especially the longer ones. If you're willing to sit through a 20-minute story time over on YouTube, that helps us so much, and it costs you your time, and your time is very valuable. But it is equally as valuable if you are able to tip the tavern keeper as it is to sit through and share and watch the story times that we put out. So again, and that's why I say you guys just showing up and showing love is amazing for us, because it helps us to grow quite a bit, and the more you do that, the more stories we get to make. Because literally everything we make through this, we put back into stories. So we appreciate all of you for how you show up for us, and we hope that we can be worthy of all of that love. I can stand my cold weather. I hate it. I will take every ounce of it, Matty. It was 80 degree. It was 85 degrees here earlier today. Wraps up in blanket and gets hot chocolate in a pillow. Sits in blanket for. That's the way. That's the way. I hate the heat. I do too, Jared. I was never more than like 80 degrees the whole time I was growing up. And I did spend a few summers out here in the United States where it was warm, but for the most part, I was always in like Southern Ireland, or I was in. I spent almost a year in north of Oslo with one of my uncles, and it was always nice and cold, rarely ever hot. And now I've lived out in the California for almost 20 years. I've never gotten used to the heat. I've never gotten used to it. I'm miserable. I'm miserable right now. It's cool off, but I'm still miserable. Uh, that he does that to the heat does that to me too. That's why I had to leave Nevada. Yeah, I would only, and Nevada gets very hot, especially in the high deserts of Nevada. It gets very hot up there. I shared with my daughter and a bunch of likes. Yeah, I appreciate it so much, hippie. It means the world. I didn't even hit 40 degrees here today. I would take it. Give it to me, please. Elsie visited the vet yesterday, and everyone loved her. She was so adorable that they even had a chance to help out behind the desk. When she saw me, she tried to jump over the counter, and it was too funny and heartwarming. Yeah, I figured that's what you meant, babe. Sorry, I may have missed it. Did we decide? No, we haven't yet. So we have to decide what we're going to do for the readathon, which is probably going to be Lord of the Rings. I think pretty much everybody has their heart set on Lord of the Rings. Starting with The Hobbit and then going through the rest of the way as far as we can during the readathon. But probably about midway through the readathon, or maybe just before we start, we'll go through and we'll do the whole thing. We'll decide what we're gonna do for the next grown-up book, or more adult book, and the next family-friendly book as well. Pagan Dragon, you said, I hate the heat. As a chubbier guy, it nearly ends me. I am a man with much meat upon me, and it keeps me very warm. I'm not quite sure just yet, Esther. We have 120 pages left in this book, and we usually get through about 20 to 30 pages a night. So I think that we can probably have this done in the next 3 to 5 reading sessions, which is about a week and a half, I would say. So we'll do a week and a half, and then we'll take a week off to prepare for it. So maybe the second week in March, I think, would probably be safe to say. I'll know when I know for sure. I'll set it on the calendars for everyone, but probably a week and a half. Yukino, hello, good to see you. Welcome in. My dad just got home from Iron River, Wisconsin. The high was 15 the whole time. He was I would kill for it. Kill for it. A glass of water with lemon juice and a pinch of salt will help with the heat exhaustion. Yeah, she's been drinking. It's not helping, but she's been drinking her coffee. I'll take her. I took her some cool water earlier. But that's actually a good recommendation, Mary. I appreciate you for that. I'll take it to her in a bit. Hippie, thank you for the heart, me. I appreciate you for that. Tips to the tavern keeper, always appreciated. Uh, oh yes, Jared. I did know it was you, but my brain hadn't put it back together yet because you don't usually come in over on Twitch. But yes, Jared, thank you for the reminder. If you guys have different usernames between the different portals, I will get confused inevitably, but I do try to remember everyone. So, uh, yeah, Jared, I need to get you my business address. I completely forgot about that. Not Jared, Joseph. I need to get you my business address. I completely forgot about that. Let me get it from the lady, and if you don't hear from me in a couple of days, poke me. Friends, the tavern has been doing pretty well the last couple of months, and I am so far behind on messages and whatnot. I've been getting close to 40 or 50 messages a week, and we've been getting over 100 comments a day in some instances, and I am trying to respond to everybody, and I'm failing terribly at it, and I apologize for that. It is nice that there are so many new folk coming into the tavern, but I'm having a hard time keeping up with all the new folk coming into the tavern. So I do apologize, but I'll do my best to catch up with everybody. So for our friends over on Twitch, we're gonna run ads real quick. You're gonna be in an ad for about 3 minutes, but it'll give us an hour, a little bit more than an hour without them, and it will allow for us uh, to not be interrupted during story time. We do it once every hour. Twitch makes us do it. I apologize for it. It's not fun, but if you do watch it, it does help the tavern a little bit, and it'll make it so we're not interrupted. So let's go ahead and we're gonna run those, and then once that's done, we'll start story time for the night. Uh, we're approaching autumn in just 2 days. It's still quite warm. I can only imagine. Australia heat is something else. It all depends on how large the service of offers are. Yeah, it's true. That's true. We have to figure out what we're going to do for the readathon. Sounds like it's pretty already. Yeah, I still have to do. I still have to do the. I still have to do the poll for everybody. Um, I mentioned thank you, Joseph. I appreciate you. I will always be hippie if it's good. If you keep up consistent across platforms, it makes it much easier for me to recognize you. And I like being able to recognize you all across things. You're human, relax, we all love you. Well, thank you, hippie. I appreciate that. Only just barely human. I'm a tavern keeper and I'm Irish, so. You need a secretary. Well, my wife helps me. The lady at the tavern, she helps me a lot. But it's just the two of us. We make a short story every single day. We do 3 live story times every week, almost every week. Sometimes we miss them because of obligations or because of sickness or something. Um, and then we're working on getting out long story times every week to 2 weeks. So in a year on average, we plan to put out over 400 videos a year, and we usually do somewhere between 320 and 380. We don't always get to that 400 mark. We'd like to, but it's just the two of us. So we have to do all of, and we don't do what a lot of people, they'll like clip stuff from live streams. We don't do that. Every story time we make, I script them, and then we make them and put them out through the portals. So there's a lot of work in how we do, because we like for everything we make to be original and made just for you guys. And it's not the best way to do these things. It's certainly not the most efficient way to do the whole social media thing. But we like it better this way. We think it's more personal, and it gives something more wonderful to all of you. At least that's how we feel about it. And I had somebody who messaged me the other day, and they were like, I didn't realize that it was you that was responding to all of the messages and comments. I was like, well, yeah, who else would it be? But I guess there are a lot of folk who are our size who have people who go and respond to comments for us. So I can barely handle when one person messages me. I don't know how you handle hundreds. It is rough. I do get worn out by it very quickly. because I get a lot of very personal messages too, which is why I want to be thoughtful in the way I respond to them. I don't just want to send stock responses and just be, oh, that's nice, thank you for messaging me. Like occasionally somebody will be like, love the video, and then I can just message back, be like, thanks, I appreciate that. But sometimes I'll get people who send me very personal messages, and I don't want to just gloss that over, because you guys spend so much time here in the tavern. I want to, properly respond to whatever it is you send me, and it's just there's a lot of them that come in, and I want to be thoughtful and intentional with how I respond to everybody. Thank you, Frost. I appreciate you. Mine's 100 pages. Oh, your book, Joseph. Right. So we actually have a little bit more left in Harry Potter than pages in your book. If I disappear while you are ready, it's because I'm staying up past my bedtime to listen. And so if you end up falling asleep, that's the greatest compliment. It means you're relaxed enough that we helped you get to sleep. My son's still anxiety could never handle that. And that's the thing is, I'm not a particularly social person. People have a hard time believing that about me. I'm not a particularly social person. I do like being I do like festivals and whatnot because I grew up with them. But meeting and being around strangers, I don't particularly like that. But it's kind of my job now, right? So I do it because I love getting to do all of this for all of you. But I do get, inside my own head about it. Castle, I have some news. I will be receiving a job offer from the company I interviewed with this past Tuesday. In the week, congratulations, Stephen. Good job, brother. I'm proud of you. Kept pushing it forward. I fall asleep here a lot. Milu, and Destiny are some of our sleepier patrons. They tend to fall asleep to stories quite often. Esther does too. Esther is one of our sleepier patrons. I think 100 pages is definitely a shorter book. It's more of like a novella than a book. Depending on the subject matter, that would be closer to a novella than like a novel. There are a lot of people though. Yeah, I have a hard time with it myself. Your stories are always something I look forward to. I started following you when you made the Jack-o'-lantern story like 2 years ago. I try to do a Jack-o'-lantern story every year because this is odd for people because like most of the time in content creation, you don't want to make the same video twice. But traditionally, in my family and in our culture, whether that's whether you're talking about our Scandinavian side or whether you're talking about the Irish side, we tell the same stories every year, but we'll tell them a little bit differently. We'll tell them in a new medium. We'll put on maybe a performance when we tell them. So I'm used to telling the same stories every year, and I just do that. Like I'll tell the story maybe in a little bit of a different way, or I'll tell a different version of it because there are dozens of versions of. Sometimes there's hundreds of versions of these stories because they've been passed down for years and years and years. So little details change. So, but yeah, I try to do the Jack-o'-lantern story every year because I think it's a classic. I think it's necessary, and the algorithm sort of dies. Once you put out a short video, it'll last for maybe 2 or 3 weeks, maybe if you're lucky 2 months, but then it kind of dies. So putting out a new version of it isn't necessarily a bad thing. 7 books is a series. Well, yeah, and if you're making a series out of it, then having a series of shorter novellas is good. It's lots of people like to have novellas. Like the Goosebumps are technically novellas. You have a bunch of shorter books that are the novella length that people really like. Hey P, thank you for the friendship necklace and you're awesome. I appreciate that. Thank you kindly. Ah. It's so hot here at Christmas that it's hard to feel the winter atmosphere. Luckily, the air conditioning helps blow things cool. It would be 100% necessary. It's already 10:30 here. I end up falling asleep almost every time. It's so it's all right. It's all right. So Gunnar is also one of the sleepy patients. Yeah, so Elsie and I always find ourselves drifting off over here, often rolling off the bed and ending softly on the floor with Elsie curled up right beside me. I know you put out that kind of story, but the point was I've been following you for those stories for around 2. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yes. Yeah, because I do remember when you started coming in, it was probably about 2 years ago. So I appreciate that. I'd love to see the Giant's Causeway. The Giant's Causeway is beautiful, and it is a marvel. It is a marvel. It is one of those things out in the world that if you get a chance to go and see it, you definitely should. Ooh, you should do the Green Mile. The Green Mile is a very good book. I don't know if it really. I don't know how many folk would vote for the Green Mile. I like the Green Mile. It's one of the few books by Stephen King I actually like. Stephen King wrote Green Mile, right? I like the Green Mile. I don't like a lot of Stephen King's work. I think that he's sort of a melodramatic writer, and I don't really like the melodrama in writing. But I really like The Long Walk by him and The Green Mile. I think are some of the books that I enjoyed by him. Well, of course, if you're sending me a book, yeah, the author should always sign it. Hey, will you what? What? Do you want to go to mom? Is that why you're whining? The door's open. Go. Boo's upset because normally mom is out here, and she's not out here right now. So in less than like 10 hours, I'll be playing Resident Evil 9. Oh, that's right. Resident Evil 9 comes out today or tomorrow, I guess technically. I haven't played a Resident Evil since Resident Evil 5, so I didn't know the Green Mile was a Stephen King story. It does make sense. Yeah, I believe it's a Stephen King story. I don't know for sure. I could be wrong on that. I think Stephen King wrote Green Mile, but again, I could be wrong. I That might be me misremembering. Yeah, it is by Stephen King. Yes, he frostcalled me there. Boo's upset because normally Una is out here with me, but she's resting and the door is partially closed. He could still get back there if he wanted to, but he's not. Yeah. Okay. See, so everybody's it is a Stephen King novel. Yeah. Yeah. I again, Stephen King is undoubtedly a prolific writer, but again, like a lot of his work is very melodramatic. And I don't like drama. Period. Like I don't like drama films. I don't like drama movies. I don't like drama shows. I don't like drama books. I don't like drama comics. So the only kind of dramas that I really can be invested in are like telenovelas because they're hilarious. And I watch Korean dramas with the lady because they're a little bit more wholesome. They're not as dramatic. Some of them I can't. Like when they're like love triangles and things like that. I can't do it. And Stephen King is a very melodramatic writer. So I'm sitting there and I just kind of get frustrated with the characters and what's going on. But I know that drama, like that, I know that's a me problem because people love like drama stories. Uh, I don't mind suspense stories. I don't like horror. Yeah, I'm with you there, Tyson. What? Dude, the door is open. Just push it. Hang on, I'm gonna go let him through because he's being a big old baby. Give me just a sec, friends. When I get back, we'll start reading. I know I'm waffling a bit too much right now. We're gonna get through all of these chapters before story time. Come on. No, what are you doing? Come on. It's open. Look. It's open. Oh, no, it's open. Look, dude. I opened it. Look, it's open. Oh, no, no. Yeah, the door was not open far enough. He didn't want to push it himself, so I had to go. Uh, I had to go. I had to go to let him through. The butterfly effect, seeing you, knowing my DNA and blood, and those leading to my purpose as a scold. An experiment that went haywire. It's short enough. Wraith Knives, hello, welcome in. You have a low-hanging head tonight. What happened? If anyone ever finds The Colorado Kid by Stephen King, let me know where you found it. I've said it before, but I've wanted to read it ever since I saw the TV show Haven. I'll make a note, Bethany. The lady does a lot of book rescue. So, hang on, you said The Colorado Kid. Oh, I love, Mr. Man, I love H.P. Lovecraft. H.P. Lovecraft is absolutely spectacular. As a matter of fact, my sister is absolutely, she's obsessed with it. Oh, holy chair, you're good. You're good, your fluff's majestic. To the time of Oh Holy Night. It is the fluffiest of them all. Oh, you guys are ridiculous. Belinda, Darth Nexus, hello, my friends. Good to see you. Disappointed in people in my life. Well, I will tell you this, Wraith. You can control a whole lot about yourself and the way that you interact with the world, but you can't really do a whole lot to control other people. So don't let what other people do be so. Don't let them so much inside of you, because when you let other people control how you feel, you end up upset more often than not, and people tend to be very irresponsible with other people's hearts. Yeah, you're right. You're right. I am indeed, Mr. Man. So for everyone, we are on 5 portals. You can come in wherever is your viewing pleasure. You can come in through TikTok, Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, or Kick. How do you like? Beauty and Blasphemy, hello! H.P. Lovecraft and Poe are the grandfathers of horror writing. Amazing, yeah. Especially psychological horror and cosmic horror. Alright, we're gonna get started here, friends. Everybody, settle in. Grab your drinks, fill them up. We're about to begin with story time, my friends. I did get a little bit carried away on the waffles, but we're coming in. Grab a drink and let's begin. The evening is wonderful, Beauty and Blasphemy. I'm glad that you're able to drop in tonight. But yeah, Mr. Man, we are over on Twitch as well. If you're on the Facebook or YouTube portals, you're going to be a little bit behind everybody else. But if you want to be involved in the most active of the conversations, that tends to be over on the Twitch portal. Okay, here we go. Chapter 29 of Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. The Lost Diadem. Neville, what the... how? But Neville had spotted Ron and Hermione, and with yells of delight was hugging on to them too. The longer Harry looked at Neville, the worse he appeared. One of his eyes was swollen yellow and purple. There were gouge marks on his face, and his general air of unkemptness suggested that he'd been living rough. Nevertheless, his battered visage shone with happiness as he let go of Hermione and said, "I knew you'd come. Kept telling Seamus it was only a matter of time." "Neville, what happened to you?" "What, this?" Neville dismissed his injuries with a shake of his head. "Oh, this is nothing. Seamus is worse. You'll see. Shall we get going then?" "Oh," he turned to Aberforth. There might be a couple more people on the way." "Couple more?" repeated Aberforth ominously. "What do you mean?" "Couple more, Longbottom. There's a curfew, and the caterwauling charms on the whole village." "I know. That's why they'll be apparating directly into the bar," said Neville. "Just send them down a message. Send them down the passage when they get here, will you? Thanks a lot." Neville held out his hand to Hermione and helped her climb up into the mantelpiece and into the tunnel. Ron followed. Then Neville, Harry addressed Aberforth. I don't know how to thank you. You've saved our lives twice. Then look after them, then, said Aberforth gruffly. I might not be able to save him a third time. Harry clambered up into the mantelpiece and through the hole behind Ariana's portrait. There were smooth stone steps on the other side. It looked as though the passage had been there for years. Brass lamps hung from the walls, and the earthy floor was worn and smooth. As they walked, their shadows rippled fan-like across the wall. How long has this been here? Ron asked as they set off. It isn't on the Marauder's map, is it, Harry? I thought there were only 7 passages in and out of the school. They sealed off all those before the start of the year, said Neville. There's no chance getting through any of them now. Not with curses over the entrances and Death Eaters and Dementors waiting at the exits. He started walking backward, beaming, drinking them in. Never mind that stuff. Is it true? Did you break into Gringotts? Did you escape on a dragon? It's everywhere. Everyone's talking about it. Terry Boots got beaten up by a Caro for yelling about it in the Great Hall at dinner. Yeah, it's true, said Harry. Neville laughed gleefully. What did you do with the dragon? Released it into the wild, said Ron. Hermione was all for keeping it as a pet. Ron, don't exaggerate. But what have you been doing? People have been saying you've just been on the run, Harry, but I don't think so. I think you've been up to something. You're right, said Harry. But tell us about Hogwarts, Neville. We haven't heard anything. It's not really Hogwarts anymore, said Neville, and the smile fading from his face as he spoke. Do you know about the Caros? There's 2 Death Eaters who teach here. They do more than teach, said Neville. They're in charge of all the discipline. They like punishment, the Caros. Like Umbridge. Nah, they make her look tame. The other teachers are all supposed to refer us to the Caros if we do anything wrong. They don't, though, if they can't avoid it. You can tell they all hate them as much as we do. Amicus, the bloke, he teaches what used to be Defense Against the Dark Arts. Except now it's just the Dark Arts. We're supposed to practice the Cruciatus Curse on people who've earned detentions. What? Ron, Harry and Hermione's united voice echoed up and down the passage. Yeah, said Neville. That's how I got this one. He pointed at a particularly deep gash on his cheek. I refuse to do it. Some people are into it, though. Crabbe and Goyle love it. First time they've ever been taught in anything, I expect. Alecto, Amicus's sister, teaches Muggle studies, which is compulsory for everyone. We've all got to learn to listen to her explain how Muggles are like animals, stupid and dirty, and how they drove wizards into hiding by being vicious towards them, and how the natural order is being re-established. I got this one, he indicated another slash on his face, for asking her how much Muggle blood she and her brother have got. Hang on just a second, Prince. All right, we're back, friends. Blimey, Neville, said Ron. There's a time and a place for getting smart, man. You didn't hear her, said Neville. You wouldn't have stood it either. The thing is, it helps when people stand up to them. It gives everyone hope. I used to notice that when you did it, Harry. But they've used a knife sharpener, said Ron, wincing slightly as they passed a lamp and Neville's injuries were thrown into even greater relief. Neville shrugged. Doesn't matter. They don't want to spill too much pure blood, so they'll torture us a bit if we get mouthy, but they won't actually kill us. Yeah, everything's all right. The lady was having a conversation, and I was just letting it mute for a little bit. The level of complexity in Deathly Hallows still blows my mind. There is a lot. One of the only complaints I have about the Deathly Hallows so far is that it has a lot of exposition in it, and so it gets really dense in some areas with the exposition. But that can be all right. We'll see how it goes. I have not done the Adas. They've been requested. I don't pick any of the books, Wraith. All of the ones that we read during Storytime are picked by the community. Mr. Tid, thank you for the follow over on Twitch. I appreciate you for that. I assume you're coming on over from the YouTube portal. Welcome, welcome. Winfrey, long time no see. Hello, good to see you. Welcome in. But, Joseph, the next thing we'll probably read for the readathon, it's looking like it's going to be Tolkien. So we'll do The Hobbit, and then we'll do all of the Lord of the Rings, as much as we can get done in a week. We'll see what happens. Okay, where was I? Harry did not know what was worse. The things that Neville was saying, or the matter-of-fact tone in which he said them. The only people in real danger are the ones whose friends and relatives are on the outside of giving trouble. They get taken hostages. Old Zeno Lovegood was getting a bit too outspoken in the Quibbler, so they dragged Luna off the train on the way back for Christmas. Neville, she's all right, we've seen her. Yeah, I know. She managed to get me a message. From his pocket, he pulled a golden coin, and Harry recognized it as one of the fake galleons that Dumbledore's army had used to send one another messages. These have been great, said Neville, beaming at Hermione. The Carrows have never rumbled how we were communicating. It drove them mad. We used to sneak out at night and put graffiti on the walls. Dumbledore's army. Still recruiting, stuff like that. Snape hated it. Used to, said Harry, who had noticed the past tense. Well, it got more difficult as time went on, said Neville. We lost Luna at Christmas, and Ginny never came back after Easter, and the three of us were sort of the leaders. The Carrows seemed to know I was behind a lot of it, so they started coming down on me hard. And then Michael Corner went and got caught releasing the first year they'd chained up, and they tortured him pretty badly. That scared people off. No kidding, muttered Ron as the passage began to slope upward. Yeah, well, I couldn't ask people to go through what Michael did, so we dropped those kinds of stunts. But we were still fighting, doing underground stuff, right, until a couple of weeks ago. That's when they decided there was only one way to stop me, I suppose, and they went for Gran. They what? Said Harry, Ron, and Hermione together. Yeah, said Neville, panting a little now because the passage was climbing so steeply. Well, you can see they're thinking. They had to work really well, kidnapping kids to force their relatives to behave. I suppose it was only a matter of time before they did it the other way around. Thing was, he faced them, and Harry was astonished to see that he was grinning. They bit off a bit more than they could chew with Gran. Little old witch living alone, they probably thought they didn't need to send anyone particularly powerful. Anyway, Neville laughed. Dawlish is still at St. Mungo's and Gran is on the run. She sent me a letter.
He clapped a hand on the breast pocket of his robes, telling me she was proud of me and that I'm my parents' son and to keep it up. Cool, said Ron. Yeah, said Neville happily. Only thing was, once they realised they had no hold over me, they decided Hogwarts could do without me after all, and I don't know whether they're still planning to kill me or send me to Azkaban. Either way, I knew it was time to disappear. But, said Ron, looking thoroughly confused, aren't we heading straight back into Hogwarts? Course, said Neville. You'll see, we're here. They turned a corner, and there ahead of them, at the end of the passage, another short flight of steps led to a door just like the one hidden behind Ariana's portrait. Neville pushed it open and climbed through. As Harry followed, he heard Neville call out to unseen people. Look who it is! Didn't I tell you? Harry emerged to a room beyond, and there were several screams and yells. Harry! It's Harry Potter! Ron! Hermione! He had heard a confused impression of coloured hangings. No, he had confused impression of coloured hangings, of lamps and many faces. The next moment he, Ron, and Hermione were engulfed, hugged, pounded on the back, their hair ruffled, their hands shaken, by what seemed to be more than 20 people. They might have just won the Quidditch Cup. Okay, calm down, Neville called, and as the crowd backed away, Harry was able to take in their surroundings. He did not recognize the room at all. It was enormous, and looked rather like the interior of a particularly sumptuous treehouse, or perhaps a gigantic ship's cabin. Multicolored hammocks were strung from the ceiling and from a balcony that ran around the dark wood-paneled and windowless walls, which were covered in bright tapestry hangings. Harry saw the gold Gryffindor lion emblazed and scarlet, the black badger of Hufflepuff setting in yellow, and the bronze eagle of Ravenclaw on blue. The silver and green of Slytherin alone was absent. There were bulging bookcases, a few broomsticks propped up against the walls, and in the corner a large wooden cased wireless. Where are we? The room of requirement, of course, said Neville. It's surpassed itself, hasn't it? The Carrows were chasing me, and I knew I had just one chance for hiding out. I managed to get through the door, and this is what I found. Well, it wasn't exactly like this when I arrived. It was a load smaller. There was only one hammock and just Gryffindor hangings, but it expanded as more and more of the DA have arrived. Actually, Mr. Tiddo, I'm gonna say Mr. Tid, or Tiddio, Mr. Tiddio. Eragon is actually the very next book on the roster for the family-friendly section. So that'll probably win after the readathon is done. Can't wait to hear Tolkien describe the same meadow for 3 pages. It's the privilege of a lifetime. It is. The film of Eragon. We all pretend that the film for Eragon just doesn't exist. Chopsticks, Hannah, hello, welcome in. Chopsticks is Hannah, right? I'm not misremembering that. Good evening, Master Castle and everyone. I'm afraid I can't stay long tonight. Just wanted to check in and say hello. Well, we're very glad that you could drop in with us. Hello, and it's good to see you. Time for bed. Good night, everyone. Good night, Hippie. Thank you for all of the love tonight. I appreciate you. Rest well, and if you want to leave us up in the background as you go to sleep, we'll keep it as mellow as possible for you. Hippie, thank you for the roses. Tips of the Tavern Keeper, always appreciated. Thank you kindly. You head off to bed. May you rest well and rise tomorrow ready to conquer the day. Excellent. It's good to see you, Hannah. Eragon is a great entry series to get into fantasy. I agree. I think Eragon is very easy fantasy. Oh, I'm glad to see you still with us, my friend. Ormer. I love the Eragon or Eldest books. Great take on magic. I agree. Forgot today's the day. That's all right, nobody. You're only just a little bit late. We only started a little bit ago, so you've missed very little. All right, back to story. And the Carrows can't get in? Asked Harry, looking around for the door. No, said Seamus Finnegan, whom Harry had not recognised until he spoke. Seamus's face was bruised and puffy. That's a proper hideout. As long as one of us stays in here, they can't get it. They can't get at us. The door won't open. That's all down to Neville. He really gets us in this room. You got to ask for it exactly what you need. Like, I don't want any Carrow supporters to be able to get in, and it'll do it for you. You just got to make sure that you close the loopholes. Neville's the man. Well, it's quite straightforward, really, said Neville modestly. I've been in here about a day and a half. I'm getting really hungry. I'm wishing I could get up and get something to eat. And that's when the passage to the Hoghead opened up. I went through it, I met Aberforth, and he's been providing us with food. Because for some reason, that's the one thing the room doesn't really do. Yeah, well, food's one of the 5 exceptions to Gaunt's law of elemental transfiguration, said Ron to general astonishment. So we've been hiding out here for nearly 2 weeks, said Seamus. And it just makes more hammocks every time we need them. It even sprouted a pretty good bathroom once girls started turning up. And thought they'd quite like a wash, yes, said Lavender Brown, whom Harry had not noticed until that point. Now that he looked around properly, he recognized many familiar faces. Both Patil twins were there, as were Terry Boot, Ernie Macmillan, Anthony Goldstein, and Michael Corner. Tell us what you've been up to, though, said Ernie. They've been so many rumours. They've been trying to keep up with you on Potter Watch. He pointed at the wireless. You didn't break into Gringotts. They did, said Neville. And the dragon was true too. There was a smattering of applause and a few whoops, and Ron took a bow. Where were you after? Asked Seamus eagerly. Before any of them could parry the question with one of their own, Harry felt a terrible scorching pain in the lightning scar. As he turned his back hastily on the curious and delighted faces, the room of acquirement vanished, and he was standing inside a ruined stone shack, and the rotting floorboards were ripped apart at his feet. A disinterred gold box lay open and empty inside of the hole, and Voldemort's scream of fury vibrated inside his head. With an enormous effort, he pulled out of Voldemort's mind again, back into the room, swaying in the room of requirement, sweat pouring from his face, and Ron holding him up. Are you all right, Harry? Neville was saying. Want to sit down? I expect you're tired, aren't... No, said Harry. He looked at Ron and Hermione, telling them without words that Voldemort had discovered the loss of another of the Horcruxes. Time was running out fast. If Voldemort chose to visit Hogwarts next, they would miss their chance. We need to get going, he said, and their expressions told him that they understood. What are we going to do then, Harry? Asked Seamus. What's the plan? Plan, repeated Harry. He was exercising all his willpower to prevent himself from succumbing to Voldemort's rage. His scar was still burning. Well, there's something we, Ron, Hermione and I, need to do. And then we'll get out of here. Nobody was laughing or whooping anymore, and Neville looked confused. Oh, hang on. TikTok's trying to kick us off. Yeah, Aragorn is wonderful. Klein, hello, aloha from the 808 state. Love hearing your storytelling, Clyde. It's always good to see you. I'm glad that you could drop in. But yeah, Audemars, Aragon is absolutely exceptional. There's nothing even to be said about it. Imagine being raised by a decorated Jewish family to explain to them, yeah, so basically this entire magic world that exists, and I gotta be a magical banker now. The last name Gold seems funny. That is actually very funny to think about it. No spoilers, but this is when shit gets real. It's been years since I've never. So for any of you who are just joining us for this, I've never read the seventh book. I've read all the way up to the sixth book. I got sort of tired of her torturing the characters because most of the characters they go through a lot of pain and a lot of writers do that. They use that as a supplement for character growth and character arcs, and I just sort of got tired of it. And I never watched the seventh films. I didn't watch part 2 or part 1 of the seventh films, and I never read the seventh book. This is my first read through of the seventh book of the Harry Potter series. I think my first fantasy books were the Narnia series, which is an exceptional place to start. Lewis is one of the best fantasy writers of all time, bar none. Like he is one of the most whimsical writers out there. I love Tolkien. Tolkien is the king of high fantasy. You will rarely find, and probably never will find, another book that is as good or exceeds that of Tolkien's work. But Lewis outdoes even Tolkien on the whimsy aspect. Lewis was such a whimsical writer. Frost, are you off to bed, my friend? When I was in middle school with my mother, I think it was... Oh, yes. I can't remember if Fablehaven or Levin Thumps were my first fantasy books. I don't even remember... I can't remember those off the top of my head, quote. So that's interesting. I know it's only been 2 days. The swelling is down on my wrist, and I'm going to the store tomorrow to get a different brace because there's more hand support and additional brace. Well, I'm glad. Okay, all right. I'm glad you're feeling better, Bethany. I hope the new brace will help further improve things. Okay. What do you mean? Get out of here. We haven't come back to stay, said Harry, rubbing his scar, trying to soothe the pain. There's something important we need to do. What is it? I can't tell you. There was a ripple of muttering at this, and Neville's brow contracted. Why can't you tell us? It's something to do with fighting you-know-who, right? Well, yeah. Then we'll help you. The other members of Dumbledore's army were nodding, some enthusiastically, others solemnly. A couple of them rose from their chairs to demonstrate their willingness for immediate action. You don't understand. Harry seemed to have said that a lot in the last few hours. We can't tell you. We've got to do it alone. Why? Asked Neville. Because, in his desperation to start looking for the missing Horcrux, or at least to have a private discussion with Ron and Hermione about where they might commence their search, Harry found it difficult to gather his thoughts, his scar still searing. Dumbledore left the job for the three of us, he said carefully. And we weren't supposed to tell. I mean, he wanted us to do it, just the three of us. We're his army, said Neville. Dumbledore's army. We were all in it together. We've been keeping it going while you three have been off on your own. It hasn't exactly been a picnic, mate, said Ron. I never said it had, but I don't see why you can't trust us. Everyone in this room's been fighting, and they've been driven in here because the Corros were hunting them down. Everyone in here has proved they're loyal to Dumbledore, loyal to you. Look, Harry began, without knowing what he was going to say. But it did not matter. The tunnel door had just opened behind him. We got your message, Neville. Hello, you three. I thought you must be here. It was Luna and Dean. Seamus gave a great roar of delight and ran to hug his best friend. Hi, everyone, said Luna happily. Oh, it's great to be back. Luna, said Harry distractedly. What are you doing here? How did you... I sent for her, said Neville, holding up the big galleon. I promised her and Jenny that if you turned up, I'd let them know. We all thought that if you came back, it would mean revolution. That we were going to overthrow Snape and the Carrows. Of course that's what it means, said Luna brightly. Isn't it, Harry? We're going to fight them out of Hogwarts. Listen, said Harry with a rising sense of panic. I'm sorry, but that's not what we came back for. There's something we've got to do, and then... You're going to leave us in this mess, demanded Michael Corner. No, said Ron. What we're doing will benefit everyone in the end. It's all about trying to get rid of you-know-who. Then let us help, said Neville angrily. We want to be a part of it. There was another noise behind them, and Harry turned. His heart seemed to fail. Ginny was now climbing down through the hole in the wall, closely followed by Fred, George, and Lee Jordan. Ginny gave Harry a radiant smile. He had forgotten. He had never fully appreciated how beautiful she was. But he had never been less pleased to see her. Aberforth's getting a bit annoyed, said Fred, raising his hand in answer to several cries of greeting. He wants a kip, and his bar turned into a railway station. Harry's mouth fell open. Right behind Lee Jordan came Harry's old girlfriend, Cho Chang. She smiled at him. I got the message, she said, holding up her own big galleon, and she walked over to sit beside Michael Corner. So, what's the plan, Harry? Said George. There isn't one, said Harry, still disoriented by the sudden appearance of all these people, unable to take everything in while his scar was still burning so fiercely. Just going to make it up as we go along, are we? My favourite kind, said Fred. You've got to stop this, he told Neville. What did you call them all back for? This is insane. We're fighting, aren't we? Said Dean, taking out his big galleon. Message said Harry was back, and we're going to fight. I'll have to get a wand, though. You haven't got a wand? You haven't got a wand, began Seamus. Ron turned suddenly to Harry. Why can't they help? What? They can help. He dropped his voice and said, so that none of them could hear but Hermione, who stood between them. We don't know where it is. We've got to find it fast. We don't have to tell them it's a Horcrux. Harry looked from Ron to Hermione, who murmured, I think Ron's right. We don't even know what we're looking for. We need them. And when Harry looked unconvinced, you don't have to do everything alone, Harry. Harry thought fast, his scar still prickling, his head threatening to split again. Dumbledore had warned him against telling anyone but Ron and Hermione about the Horcruxes. Secrets and lies. That's how we grew up. Secrets and lies. That's how we grew up. Doubts. He was a natural. Was he turning into Dumbledore, keeping his secrets clutched to his chest, afraid to trust? But Dumbledore had trusted Snape. And where had that led? To a murder atop of the highest tower. All right, he said quietly to the other two. Okay. He called to the room at large, and all the noise ceased. Fred and George, who had been cracking jokes for the benefit of those nearest, fell silent, and all of them looked alert and excited. There's something we need to find, Harry said. Something that'll help us to overthrow you-know-who. It's here at Hogwarts, but we don't know where. It might have belonged to Ravenclaw. Has anyone heard of an object like that? Has anyone ever come across something with her eagle on it, for instance? He looked hopefully towards the little group of Ravenclaws, to Padma, Michael, Terry, and Cho, but it was Luna who answered, perched on the arm of Ginny's chair. Well, there is her lost diadem. I told you about it, remember, Harry? The lost diadem of Ravenclaw. Daddy's trying to duplicate it. Yeah, but Yeah, but the lost diadem, said Michael Corner, rolling his eyes, is lost, Luna. That's sort of the point. When was it lost? Asked Harry. Centuries ago, they say, said Cho, and Harry's heart sank. Professor Flitwick says the diadem vanished with Ravenclaw herself. People have looked, but... She appealed to her fellow Ravenclaws. Nobody's ever found a trace of it. Have they? They all shook their heads. Sorry, but what is a diadem? Asked Ron. Ron asking the questions all of us need answered. Thank you, Castle, for the story, but I bid everyone good night. Good night, Marcy. Thank you for joining us. Mary Beth, good night. Rest well, my friends. Thank you so much for coming in. We appreciate you. Please rest well, and may you rise tomorrow ready to conquer the day. We look forward to seeing you back for Sunday and Tuesday for story time. Rest well, and we will see you then. Please be safe and have a wonderful rest of your week. And going into the weekend as well. My favourite character, oddly, is Minerva. Such a sad, tale, and powerful woman. McGonagall, you can't really beat Professor McGonagall's story. I will say, having the character sort of just suffer and go through shit in place of growth is easier to make into a movie. Perhaps that's why it happens so much. It is to a degree, and a lot of people will take their own subjective experience and go, oh, I felt pain at this point in my life, and therefore, Marcy, thank you for those stars as well. I appreciate you. Thank you kindly. Tips to the tavern keeper are always appreciated. The writer will say, oh, I felt pain at this point in my life, so pain is what caused me to evolve and grow. So that'll happen a lot. But what we miss is that a lot of times pain is associated with things that require us to grow, but pain itself is not the catalyst for growth. It is we go through an experience, then that experience prompts us to learn, then that learning experience prompts us to grow. But just like if I stab myself in the hand, and then later on I stab myself in the hand again, I didn't actually learn anything from that pain. I was just suffering for sake of suffering. And a lot of times this will happen. You'll get suffering just for sake of suffering in writing, because authors have a hard time differentiating their subjective experience of I went through pain and then I grew from what was the cause, catalyst, and result of growth, of which pain was a sideline to. So it's something that it's because authors don't think too deeply about that aspect of it. They just go, oh, I'm going to put my character through some hardship, and then that hardship is going to help them grow. But most of them will make the hardship just specifically pain. Because pain is easier to write. Pain is very visceral to write. It's not as easy to write something that's uncomfortable, like in the early books, a lot of Harry's growth came from him being embarrassed and getting bad grades, right? Hi, Jaeger, how's it going, my son? Dear friends and dear friends, welcome in, brother. That's why a lot of people end up writing really like visceral, painful scenes. But in the first 2 or 3 books, most of Harry's pain, most of Harry's suffering, if you will, his hardship, is like doing poorly in his classes and not fitting in well. And she did a pretty good job there, but by the time you get to the 3rd book, it switches almost exclusively to person go through pain, person now grow. And it's not a great way to write character growth, but it is probably the most common way that character growth is written. But when it gets to the point of like torturing characters, which is why I didn't finish reading Game of Thrones. I read the first 3 books of The Song of Ice and Fire, and then everything, like, first of all, he writes every book on the same tempo, so once you've recognized the pattern in the books, you can pretty much predict what's going to happen. And the second thing is that all of the character growth in Game of Thrones is from pain. It's all about being tortured. And so I became disenfranchised with it, or disillusioned with it, I guess. Makes a lot of sense. Writing pain isn't the same as going through and truly understanding where the growth is. Yeah, and That's why a lot of authors get caught in the trap of, oh, I'm just going to write this very traumatic thing, and then we'll change it. Chopsticks is my favorite utensil. Ricardo of the middle finger. Hello, my friend. Welcome in. It's good to see you. Yeah. Slim, sleek, and dropping things. That is what chopsticks do. Alright, let's continue. It's sort of like a crown, said Terry Boots. Ravenclaw was supposed to have magical properties, enhance the wisdom of the wearer. Yes, that is Waxburt's siphons, but Harry cut across Luna. And none of you have ever seen anything that looks like it. They all shook their heads again. Harry looked at Ron and Hermione, and his own disappointment was mirrored back at him. An object that had been lost this long and apparently without trace did not seem a good candidate for the Horcruxes hidden in the castle. Before he could formulate a new question, however, Cho began to speak. If you'd like, you can see what diadems are supposed to look like. I could take you to our common room and show you. Harry, Ravenclaw's wearing it on her statue. Harry's scar scorched again. For a moment, the room of requirements swam before him, and he saw instead the dark earth soaring beneath him and felt the great snake wrap around his shoulders. Voldemort was flying again, whether to the underground lake or here to the castle, he did not know. Either way, there was hardly any time left. He's on the move, he said quietly to Ron and Hermione. He glanced at Cho and then back at them. Listen, I know it's not much of a lead, but I'm going to go and look at this statue. At least find out what the diadem looks like. Wait for me here and keep, the other side, the other one, safe. Cho got to her feet, but Ginny said rather fiercely, No! Luna will take Harry, won't you, Luna? Oh, yes, I'd like to, said Luna happily, and Cho sat down again looking disappointed. How do we get out? Harry asked Neville. Over here. And he led Harry and Luna to a corner where a small cupboard opened onto a steep staircase. It comes out somewhat different every day, so they've never really been able to find it, he said. Only trouble is, we never know exactly where we're going to end up when we go out. Be careful, Harry. They're always patrolling the corridors at night. No problem, said Harry. We'll see you in a bit. He and Luna hurried up the staircase, which was long, lit by torches and turned corners in unexpected places. At last, they reached what appeared to be a solid wall. Get under here, Harry told Luna, pulling out the invisibility cloak and throwing it over both of them. He gave the wall a little push, and it melted away to his touch, and they slipped outside. Harry glanced back and saw that it had resealed itself at once. They were standing in a dark corridor. Harry pulled Luna back into the shadows, fumbled in the pouch around his neck, and took out the Marauder's map. Holding it close to his nose, he searched and located his and Luna's dots at last. We're up on the 5th floor, he whispered, watching Filch moving away from them a corridor ahead. Come on, this way. They crept off. Harry had prowled the castle at night many times before, but never had his heart hammered this fast. Never had so much depended on his safe passage through the place. Through the squares of moonlight upon the floor, past suits of armor, whose helmets creaked at the sound of their soft footsteps, around corners beyond which who knew what lurked. Harry and Luna walked, checking the Marauder's map whenever light permitted, twice pausing to allow a ghost to pass without drawing attention to themselves. He expected to encounter an obstacle at any moment. His worst fear was Peeves, and he strained his ears with every step to hear the first telltale signs of the poltergeist's approach. This way, Harry, breathed Luna, plucking at his sleeve and pulling him towards a spiral staircase. They climbed a tight, dizzying circles, and Harry had never been up there before. At last they reached a door. There was no handle and no key, nothing but a plain expanse of aged wood, and a bronze knocker the shape of an eagle. Luna reached out a pale hand, which looked eerie floating in midair, unconnected to an arm or body. She knocked once, and in the silence, it sounded to Harry like a cannon blast. At once, the beak of an eagle opened, but instead of a bird's call, a soft musical voice said, "Which came first? The phoenix or the flame?" What do you think, Harry? Said Luna, looking thoughtful. What? Isn't there just a password? No, you've got to answer a question, said Luna. What if you get it wrong? Well, you have to wait for somebody who gets it right, said Luna. That way you learn, see? Yeah, trouble is, we can't really afford to wait for anyone else, Luna. No, I see what you mean, said Luna seriously. Well then, I think the answer is that a circle has no beginning. Well reasoned, said the voice, and the door swung open. Clever. Fred here, thinking about going from being a school janitor to being a history teacher. If you can do it, why not, yeah? Alpha Grog, hello and welcome in. Thank you for the follow over on the TikTok portal. You have marked the tavern on your map, and now you will be able to find us whenever you seek a story. Grab a seat and settle in. Oh, darn it, we're about to hit ads and I've only got one paragraph left. All right, friends over on Twitch, we're going to have 3 minutes of ad, and then we get back, we'll finish the chapter and start on the next one. Thank you, my friends, I appreciate you. We'll be right back. We're just going to run them right now. And for anybody watching through any of the other portals, we are live on 5 different portals every time we do Storytime, so you can come in through whatever your preferred viewing experience is. You can come in through TikTok, Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, or Kick, whichever is the object of your desire. Belinda, you said I'm going to try to sleep. I'll keep listening to your wonderful storytelling till then. Thank you. Always a pleasure, Belinda. Rest well, and I hope you rise tomorrow ready to conquer the day. I'm going to school for an art history degree, not that hard. When I went to university, I went for literature. And for some reason, art history was a part of the requirements for literature. I could not tell you why. There were a bunch of really silly requirements for it. And art history is sort of fascinating, but as a subject, it is semi-directionless. Like, there's a bunch of fascinating things about it, but from what I could remember, it was really a series of lessons that was like, hey, isn't this really neat? And it is, yeah, that is really neat. And that was sort of the whole of art history for me. I might be misremembering, and I only took a few courses, so that might have just been where I was going to school. Thin shaven slices of brisket. Thin shaven slices of brisket are delicious. Give me spicy pho, and I'm a happy camper. The lady and the boy love their noodles. They are noodle fiends. Sounds amazing. See, I'm not a pho fan, but give me a ban me any day. You want me to ban you, Jaeger? All right, I'll ban you. No, I'm just kidding. Thank goodness I've already had dinner, otherwise I would be door dashing right now. Oh, the Asian market out here near us is spectacular. The best thing that they have is their pastries. They have a little bakery right off in the side. There's a little Asian bakery, and they have wonderful pastries over there. I make my own pho from scratch, bone broth and everything. Yeah, a good homemade bone broth is absolutely unbeatable. And so few people take the time to actually make a good bone broth. And obviously, like, a chicken bone broth is much easier to make than, say, like a beef bone broth. But it's worth it to make it if you cook a lot. If you do a lot of cooking at home, you should 100% be making your own bone broths. They're delicious. They're very healthy, and they're just it's worth it to make it. Yeah, you have to get this degree to get a 4-year teaching degree. It's, well, yeah, and the whole university system, I have my grievances with it. I worked in academia for a very long time, and I have all sorts of grievances with academia. So far, I agree. It's just a lot of random cool stuff. Usually, some good critical thinking. I was close to just saying, uh, "F it." I don't know if I can swear or not because TikTok is temperamental with it, and take all my savings backpacking instead. I mean, you'd probably learn just as much, but probably not as many people will take a backpack across Europe as a resume. I don't think. Uh, we make broth almost every week. We use it in every. Yeah, that's right. That's what I mean. It's like if you're cooking well, like if you cook often, making your own bone broth and even making your own butter is well worth the time because you're going to be using it all the time. So, and it's easy. It's easier and healthier to just make those things yourself if you are cooking all the time. Like if you do a lot of home cooking, it's well worth it to do. Castle, did you say a good bum rub? I did not say that. There's only one person in the world who I give a good bum rub to. Uh, there's a new program where I live. It is if I got a bachelor's degree, I can go through and teach now to teach. Interesting, Frithian. Machining Crow's an interesting screen name. I'd be interested in the origins of that. But thank you for marking us on your map over on the TikTok portal. Welcome in. For the new folk, I think we have quite a few new folk in this evening. I am Castle, this is my tavern, and here we talk about myth and lore and tales of yore, and every now and again I read you all a bedtime story. Tonight we are in Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, but every day you can come back to the tavern, almost every day you can come back to the tavern and find yourself a fresh new story of folklore and myth and history and fiction storytelling from all over the world. And we're glad to have you. Oh, bone broth sounded like bum rot. I see. You're correct, which is why I decided to become a teacher. Figured once I'm a teacher, I can offer alternative options to the current. Yeah, and we need good teachers. We need good teachers. The two things that society has to have is we have to have good wise folk, which are our teachers, and we have to have good parents. Without good parents and good wise folk, societies cannot stand. So more people who are willing to teach and to spread stories. I don't like to call storytellers teachers, even though to a degree a storyteller is a teacher, because I don't like to refer to myself as a teacher. I was in academia in a teaching capacity. I was never a teacher, but in a teaching capacity, and a mentoring capacity for almost 10 years, and I did very very little good because of the constraints of the system. And the one thing that I will say is that I think more people have learned more about history and critical thinking and philosophy from us in the tavern than I could have ever taught in a school. So, because of the constraints of the system. But I think that good teachers are very important. Good teachers are incredibly important. And the only thing more important than good teachers is good parents. You have to be a good parent who is willing to be patient and be firm and be stern with your children and to really guide them down the right way. Delicious bum rubs, says Milo. Danny Gibbon, hello, welcome in. So very glad you could join us. Did I hear an Ouroboros reference? A never-ending circle? That indeed you did. Mr. Tidio. Mr. Tidio, do you have a preferred name, by the way? Because your name does sound like I'm saying something else. So if you have a preferred name, I can keep calling you Mr. Tidio, or Tidio, however you want it said. Being a parent is very special experience. Yes, and there's this myth that you just having a child will make you a parent. You have to learn. You have to want to learn to be a good parent. Being a parent is a skill. It's basically a vocation. You have to learn about it. So it is Mr. Tidio. All right, that's what I thought. Do you have a preferred name, or do you want me to call you Mr. Tidio? William Kyle Sipes, brother, you teach us every day. I appreciate you saying so, William. I appreciate you saying so. Again, I would never call myself a teacher, but I do enjoy being able to share the wisdom that was passed to me, because I am by no means a wise man. I'm not an overly intelligent man. I am just a storyteller. I have the benefit of having many stories passed down to me through the elders in my life, my grandfather's family's traditions, and it is the job of storytellers to pass on the stories as they are handed to us and preserve them as best we can without imposing ourselves upon them. Uh, Mr. Tidio is just below you, Esther, in the chat. Very much so. Well, Danny, I'm glad that you made it in. I'm glad you're here. I hope that you are having a wonderful evening, and I hope you can relax at some sort of time. So I'm going to get back to reading right now. It looks like the ads are done. Amen, Castle. I'm on my first, and it has been an adventure. It is a hell of a thing, Hannah. It is a hell of a thing. I was a father to my stepson when he was 9 years old. So I didn't get the cute era. He was still kind of cute when I got him, I also had to be there to discipline him. And we're pretty good. We're pretty good buddies now. On our good days, we're buddies. On our bad days, I'm his prison warden. But you know, that's just how it goes. Tedious. I'm sure that it is. Yeah, that's the way Castle talk is. I'm not. I'm not. I genuinely I would not consider myself to be an overly wise man. I have a lot of experience, but I do continue to make poor decisions. So I can't necessarily say that I'm overly intelligent or wise when if you keep walking into the same door over and over again. Gosh, Castle, how's the sleep hearing bum rubs and Mr. Tit Toes? I have 5 chickens. Wow, that's a lot of. Well, I guess it's not a lot of chickens. If you live out in the country, that's like a very small amount of chickens. But if you live in the city, that's a lot of chickens. I get to just point how location and perspective. Like, if you live on a ranch, 10 horses is not a lot. If you live in an apartment, 10 horses is a lot. So it's just a matter of point and perspective, I suppose. I think to be a teacher is separate from being smart. Smart people create, improve theories. Teachers spread knowledge and wisdom in a broad breadth. I think that that's a good way to say it, nobody, is that having a smart teacher is a good thing, but you don't necessarily need to be smart to be a teacher. You just have to be willing to pass on what you know and what you've learned from people who are smarter than you to other people. Oh, children, 5 children. And again, still to the point. 5 children, if you live on a ranch, that's not a lot. But if you live in an apartment, that is a lot of children. But wow, Danny, you're really working on keeping the replacement rate up. Good for you. Good for you. Children are a blessing. I had a buddy that had a little quail pen in his apartment for fresh eggs. We had quails for a bit, and they sadly did not survive out here in the heat of Los Angeles. Mr. Tedious. All right, I'm gonna get back to reading. We're 1 paragraph, or 2 paragraphs away from the end of this. Let's see. The deserted Ravenclaw common room was a wide circular room, airier than any Harry had ever seen at Hogwarts. Graceful arched windows punctuated the walls, which were hung with blue and bronze silks. By day, the Ravenclaws would have a spectacular view of the surrounding mountains. The ceiling was domed and painted with stars, which were echoed in the midnight blue carpet. There were tables, chairs, and bookcases, and in a niche opposite the door stood a tall statue of white marble. Harry recognized Rowena Ravenclaw from the bust he had seen at Luna's house. The statue stood beside a door that led, he guessed, to dormitories. Above, he strode right up to the marble woman, and she seemed to look back at him with a quizzical half-smile on her face. Beautiful, yet slightly intimidating. A delicate-looking circlet had been reproduced in marble atop her head. It was not unlike the tiara that Fleur had worn at her wedding. There were tiny words etched into it. Harry stepped out from under the cloak and climbed up onto Ravenclaw's plinth to read them. Wit beyond measure is man's greatest treasure. Which makes you pretty skint, witless, said a cackling voice. Harry rolled around and slipped off the plinth and landed on the floor. The sloping shouldered figure of Electo Caro was standing before him, and even as Harry raised his wand, she pressed a stubby forefinger to the skull of the snake brand on her forearm. And so ends chapter 29 of Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. Do not fret, friends, that is not where we are ending for the night. We have one more chapter to go. So we're going to dive. I'm going to get up just for a second to stretch my legs, and then we're going to go right back in to chapter 30, which is about, I think it's 9 pages long. 12 pages. We have 12 pages. So I'm going to power through this, and we're going to go as quickly as possible. Yeah, and I think that's really the wonderful thing about teaching, is that you're passing on the wisdom of others. So you don't have to be a genius. You can be a genius and be a teacher. I'm not saying teachers are dumb, but you don't have to be a genius to be a teacher. You just simply have to be willing to pass along wisdom as it is handed to you. Again, without it's the same rule as the storyteller. You do not impose yourself upon the wisdom and the knowledge that you get. You are passing along the wisdom of others and teaching children, teaching others how to think, not what to think. In my town, we can have ducks and chickens, but quads are not allowed. I'm tempted. I grew up around cornfields. Actually kind of liked ranching. Sadly, it's one of the most underpaid jobs there is. And there's another one. Ranchers and farmers, like, they are so integral to culture and society. And agriculture has been on the decline because of poor management and poor leadership for the last 30 years. And it's tragic. It's tragic. Go poop, bro. Well, no, I'm not quite going to go do that. I'm just going to stand up for a minute. But I'm gonna go stretch my legs, and I will be right back, and we will continue on, my friends. Common sense is just as valuable and needed as every knowledge is, if not more so. Being able to reason properly and being able to think for yourself. The example that I always use is I can say, hey, fire is hot. Don't put your hand in fire. Or I can tell you a story about a man who was burned badly and how he suffered through his life after he was burned. That story tells you, hey, maybe fire is hot. Maybe fire can burn me really badly. But we have a problem today that everyone just wants to tell you a thing, you take their word for it, and you never think about it for yourself. That's not how critical thinking works. That's not how reason works. You have to be willing to teach people how to think. And that's not to say you teach them how to think like you teach them how to think. One of the things we learn as children in my grandfather's family is how to question adults in a constructive way when it is necessary. Stoicism, people could use more stoicism. Yeah, and I think stoicism was sort of hijacked by like the dude bro community online. So a lot of people have this idea that stoicism is about being emotionless and being like empty, but that's not what stoicism promotes at all. It's not about what you think, it's about how you think. Right. Like most reasonable people will come to the same conclusion, not because they all think alike, but because good reasoning will take everyone to the same place, right? Like, if there's a road that goes straight and it's like, I want to get to that water tower that is straight, and there are 7 roads that get there. Well, there are 7 roads right in front of me, and I can see there's a straight one. Reasonable people will take the straight road. A bunch of other people will go, well, maybe it's faster to go this way, and they'll go off around, and 1 or 2 of those other roads may get you there, but none of them will get you there as quickly as the straight road. Reason is taking the straight road. Because reasonable people all took the straight road doesn't mean they all think alike. It's because good reason will take you all to the same point. Growing up in an agricultural community, I can see the decline from the different perspectives. My hometown has lost 25% of its farmland in the last 10 years, and it's tragic. There is nothing that will cause a society and communities to collapse faster than the downfall of agriculture. Agriculture is so ridiculously important. You end up with I need to get up and stretch so we can get back to reading. But you end up with these instances like where when Japan was very insular, right? Where there was a time in like the 1300s to the 1500s where Japan was very insular, and then leading up to the 1800s, there was another time after the Meiji Reconstruction where Japan again was very insular, and in those times when they were very isolated, they ended up really flourishing, and that's because they became centered around agriculture. They had to work on their own agriculture. They couldn't rely on getting crops or imported goods from anywhere else because they literally did business with almost nobody. They did a little bit of business with the Danes, with the Danish, but that was it. They did very little business outside of the country. So they had to become very efficient and very productive in the way that they did their agriculture. So their agriculture actually bloomed in the time. But when countries become very dependent upon each other, agriculture inside of individual countries tends to die, and then it ends up causing everybody to suffer from it. And I know I'm boring everybody with this. This is all just me babbling because we came upon a point. True looking in history is actually incredibly insightful. A great story, even if I can't recount it right now. Right. For the scientists who elude my faith in the power of reason, the story ends like a bad dream. He has scaled the mountain of ignorance. He is about to conquer the highest peak. As he pulls himself over the final rock, he's greeted by a band of theologians who have been sitting there for centuries. That's it. That's actually a really interesting way to put it, Mr. Tidio. We talk about this all the time, about how ancient peoples, like, they knew all of these things about the sky. They didn't know it in as detail as we do today, right? Like, they didn't know, they probably didn't know that the sun was kept hot by nuclear fission. They probably didn't know that. But there were this idea that the sun was this burning ball of gas, thousands of years ago. And so you have these things that were understood to a degree thousands of years ago, and it just took science a couple thousand years to catch up with it. And that's not to say that science is dumb because of that, but there's this idea that spiritual and intuitional belief, right, like natural belief or natural understanding, is dumber than technical understanding, but they're part of they're both part of the human mind, right? Like intuitional understanding, a trained intuition is just as useful as a trained logic if they are kept in check, right? If you put them through a discipline. But most of the time, people are like, oh, you're either emotionally not there, like you're either emotionally immature or you're intellectually immature. And the people who are intellectually mature look at people who are emotionally mature as being dumb, and people who are emotionally mature look at intellectually mature people as being dumb. So we have this constant battling back and forth of the two sides of our brain that are both necessary for you to be a whole and complete person. It's a frustrating thing. Castle, yesterday on my drive to the vet to take Elsie, I couldn't help but notice how many homes looked so run down, it was as if no one was living in them. Some appeared to be badly burnt. Yeah, and it's actually not. It's not just where you are, Esther. It's everywhere. The country I grew up in was the largest county I grew up in was the largest hay exporter to Japan in the country for almost 30 years. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy how the world has changed in just one generation. I love physics, but I'm also very spiritual. That's how I found your YouTube channel. Oh, very good. I'm glad to hear it. And it's funny because a lot of people will be like, oh, well, religion and spirituality and science, these are all separate. But they're not. Like, some of the greatest scientists in history were all Christians, right? Like, they all believed in God. They believed in a higher power. And one of the things that allowed them to discover the things they did is that they believed that they were small in the universe. They believed that they existed within a series of rules, and that led them to search out what those rules were. And we always want to condescend to other people about what they believe. But if a belief is rational and beneficial, then it should be passed down through humanity. It is what it is. Good evening, Castle, my friend. How are you doing today? I'm doing wonderful. I need to get up and stretch because we're about to do another chapter. But I keep getting I keep getting sidetracked by the conversation. I am afraid I have to say So long and good night, everyone. Thank you, Master Castle. Have a good weekend, everyone. Hannah, good night. Rest well. I hope that you and your I don't know how young your little one is. You don't have to tell us, but you and your little one, your little you, have a wonderful evening, and I hope you and your family are doing well, and you have a wonderful weekend. And we'll see you back for the next story time. Okay, I'm gonna get up and stretch. I'll be right back, friends. All right, Mahara, I've returned. Let us continue. The chair. You guys are ridiculous. Absolute lunatics, all of you. All right. Let's get back into this. We're on chapter 30 of Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. The sacking of Severus Snape. Mr. T said, my tattoo research led me to this stream. I would like to share both Elder Futhark and Orm. Oh, very interesting. If you'd like for me to look at whatever you're doing, I don't know how versed you are. My family has a pretty decent history, and I have quite a few newer and older books. And when I say old, I mean very old. Books about Orm and elder and younger Futhark, and the English version of Futhark. Wolf, hello, welcome in. So very glad you could join us. Your name is so long, so it's Wolf. Then there's a wolf and two eyes, loyal to Imani. Hello, welcome in, my friend. I'm glad you could join us. Don't count me, Castle. I never talk about the chair. Thank you, nobody. But yeah, Mr. Titty, if you want to message me the pictures of what you're planning to do, I can help you make sure you're not writing like bagel on your arm. I've had quite a few folk message me about their tattoo plans. Oh, I 100% plan to use your content as inspiration for a tabletop RPG character. Wonderful. So, Sir Matty, who is probably passed out because he was partying yesterday for his birthday, and then a couple of other folks have used the tavern and tavern story as inspiration for their stories and for their RPGs. I love that. That's amazing. I absolutely adore that. The fact that the stories here can spawn more stories is wonderful. Bradley Kelly says, "What is this? Well, welcome in, my friend. This is a tavern at the end of the world where all stories eventually come to rest. I am Castle, the keeper of said tavern, and you, my friend, are here because you sought a story. Uh, we talk about here myth and lore and tales of yore, but tonight I am reading you all a story from Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. We are on chapter 30. We just began this chapter, so if you want to grab a seat and settle in with us, you're welcome to join us. And if you're like, wow, this is crazy and I need to get out of here before I get trapped, whatever, that's perfectly reasonable. Already done, but I was careful. Okay, very good. Yeah, I think I still have the Discord link again. Let's see. Yep, there we go. Hey, I'm alive, just hungover. Alright, well, fair enough, fair enough. Alright, we're getting back into the chapter, friends. Oop, sorry, I bumped you all. Alright, settle in. Joker, hello, my friends. I'm gonna listen to this wonderful story while I'm sleeping in bed. Wonderful. Always good to have the sleepy folk join us. Well, you rest well, Wolf, and I'll get back to reading. Joker, it's good to see you, my friend. I'm about to go head down, but we'll talk here soon, alright? The Sacking of Severus Snape. The moment her finger touched the mark, Harry's scar burned savagely. The starry room vanished from sight, and he was standing upon an outcrop of rock beneath a cliff, and the sea was washing around him, and there was a triumph in his heart. The boy! A loud bang brought Harry back to where he stood. Disoriented, he raised his wand, but the witch before him was already falling forward. She hit the ground so hard that the glass in the bookcases tinkled. I've never stunned anyone, except in our DA lessons, said Luna, sounding mildly interested. That was noisier than I thought it would be. And sure enough, the ceiling had begun to tremble. Scurrying, echoing footsteps were growing louder and louder behind the door leading to the dormitories. Luna's spell had woken Ravenclaw's sleeping cloak. Ravenclaw's sleeping above. Luna, where are you? I need to get under the cloak. Luna's feet appeared out of nowhere, and he hurried to her side, and she let the cloak fall back over them as the door opened, and a stream of Ravenclaws, all in their nightclothes, flooded into the common room. There were gasps and cries of surprise as they saw Alecto lying unconscious. Slowly they shuffled in around her, a savage beast that might wake at any moment, and attack them. Then one brave little first year darted up to her and prodded her with the back of his big toe. I think she might be dead, he shouted with delight. Oh, look, whispered Luna happily, as the Ravenclaws crowded around Alecto. They're pleased. Yeah, great. Harry closed his eyes and his scar throbbed as he chose to sink again into Voldemort's mind. He was moving along the tunnel into the first cave. He has chosen to make sure the locket before coming, but that would not take him long. There was a rap on the common room door, and every Ravenclaw froze. Harry heard the soft musical voice that issued from the eagle door knocker. Where do vanished objects go? I don't know, do I? Shut it! Snarled an uncouth voice that Harry knew to be the Carroll brother, Amicus. Alecto! Alecto, are you there? Have you got him? Open the door! The Ravenclaws were whispering amongst themselves, terrified, and then, without warning, there came a series of loud bangs, as though somebody was firing a gun at the door. Alecto! If he comes and we haven't got Potter, do you want to go the same way as the Malfoys? Answer me! Amicus bellowed, shaking the door, for all he was worth, but still it did not open. The Ravenclaws were backing away. Some of the most frightened began to scamper back up the staircase. to their beds, and then, just as Harry was wondering whether he ought not blast open the door and stun Amicus before the Death Eater could do anything else, a second, most familiar voice rang out beyond the door. May I ask what you're doing, Professor Carroll? Trying to get through this damn door, shouted Amicus. Go get Flitwick. Get him to open it now. But isn't your sister in there? Asked Professor McGonagall. Didn't Professor Flitwick let her in earlier this evening at your urgent request? Perhaps she could open the door for you? Then you needn't wake up half the castle. She ain't answering, you old bosom. You open it. Go on, do it now. Certainly, if you wish it, Professor McGonagall said, and with an awful coldness, there was a genteel tap of the knocker and the musical voice asked again. Where do vanished objects go? Into non-being, which is to say, everything, replied Professor McGonagall. Nicely phrased, replied the eagle door knocker, and the door swung open. A few Ravenclaws who had remained behind, sprinted for the stairs as Amicus burst over the threshold, brandishing his wand. Hunched like his sister, he had a pallid, doughy face and tiny eyes, which fell at once on Alecto sprawled motionless on the floor. He let out a yell of fury and fear. What have they done, the little whelps? He screamed. I'll cruciate the lot of them till they tell me who did it. And what's the Dark Lord going to say? He shrieked, standing over his sister and smacking himself on the forehead with his fist. We haven't got him. They're gone and killed her. She's only stunned, said Professor McGonagall impatiently, who had stooped down to examine Alecto. She'll be perfectly fine. No, she bloodthering well won't, bellowed Amicus. Not after the Dark Lord gets a hold of her. She's gone and sent for him. I felt me might burn, and he thinks we've got Potter. Got Potter? Said Professor McGonagall shortly. What do you mean, got Potter? He told us Potter might try and get inside Ravenclaw Tower, and to send for him if we caught him. Why would Harry Potter try and get into Ravenclaw Tower? Harry Potter belongs in my house. Beneath the disbelief and anger, Harry heard a little strain of pride in her voice. An affection for Minerva McGonagall gushed up inside him. We was told he might come in here, said Caro. I don't know why, do I? Professor McGonagall stood up, and her beady eyes swept the room. Twice they passed right over the place where Harry and Luna stood. We can push it off on the kids, said Amicus, his pig-like face suddenly crafty. Yeah, that's what we'll do. We'll say Alecto was ambushed by the kids. Them kids up there. He looked up at the starry ceiling towards the dormitories. And we'll say they forced her to press her mark. And that's why he got a false alarm. They can punish them. Couple of kids, more or less. What's the difference? The only difference between truth and lies is courage and cowardice, said Professor McGonagall, who turned pale. A difference, in short, which you and your sister seem unable to appreciate. But let me make one thing very clear. You're not going to pass off your many ineptitudes on the students of Hogwarts. I shall not permit it. Excuse me. Amicus moved forward until he was offensively close to Professor McGonagall, his face within inches of hers. She refused to back away, but looked down at him as if he were something disgusting she had found stuck to a lavatory. It's not a case of what you'll permit, Minerva McGonagall. Your time's over. It's us that's in charge here now. And you'll back me up or you'll pay the price. And he spat in her face. Harry pulled the cloak off himself, raised his wand, and said, You shouldn't have done that. Amicus spun around and Harry yelled, Crucio! The Death Eater was lifted off his feet. He writhed through the air like a drowning man, thrashing and howling in pain, and then with a crunch and a shattering of glass, he smashed into the front of a bookcase and crumpled insensible on the floor. I see what Bellatrix meant, said Harry, the blood thundering in his brain. You do need to mean it. Potter! Whispered Professor McGonagall, clutching at her. Potter, you're here! How? What? She struggled to pull herself together. Potter, that was foolish! He spat at you, said Harry. Potter, that was very, very gallant of you. But don't you realise? Yeah, I do, Harry assured her. Somehow her panic steadied him. Professor McGonagall, Voldemort's on the way. Oh! We're allowed to say his name? Oh, are we allowed to say his name now? Asked Luna with an air of interest, pulling off the invisibility cloak. This appearance of a second outlaw seemed to overwhelm Professor McGonagall, who staggered backward and fell into a nearby chair, clutching at the neck of her old tartan dressing gown. I don't think any of it makes any sense. Well, oh, hang on. I don't think it makes any difference what we call him, Harry told Luna. He already knows where I am. In a distant part of Harry's brain, the part connected to the angry burning scar, he could see Voldemort sailing fast over the dark lake in the ghostly green boat. He had nearly reached the island where the stone basin stood. You must flee, whispered Professor McGonagall. Now, Potter, as quickly as you can. I can't, said Harry. There's something I need to do, Professor. Do you know where the diadem of Ravenclaw is? Diadem of Ravenclaw? Of course not. Hasn't it been lost for centuries? She sat up a little straighter. Potter, what is this madness? Utter madness. You, to enter this castle? I had to, said Harry. Professor, there's something hidden here that I'm supposed to find, and it could be the diadem. If I could speak to Professor Flitwick. There was a sound of movement, of clinking glass. Amicus was coming around. Before Harry or Luna could act, Professor McGonagall rose to her feet, pointed her wand at the groggy Death Eater and said, Imperio! Amicus got up and walked over to his sister, picked up her wand, then shuffled obediently to Professor McGonagall and handed it over, along with his own. Then he lay down on the floor beside Alecto. Professor McGonagall waved her wand again, and a length of a shimmering silver rope appeared out of thin air and snaked around the corridors, binding them tightly together. Potter, said Professor McGonagall, turning to face him again with superb indifference to the corridor's predicament, if he who must not be named does indeed know that you're here. As she said it, a wrath that was as like a physical pain blazed through Harry, setting his scar on fire, and for a second he looked down upon a basin whose potion had turned clear, and saw that no golden locket lay safe beneath the surface. Potter, are you all right? Said a voice, and Harry came back. He was clutching Luna's shoulders to steady himself. Time's running out. Voldemort's getting nearer. Professor, I'm acting on Dumbledore's orders. I must find what he wanted me to find. But we've got to get the students out while I'm searching the castle. It's me Voldemort wants. He won't care about killing a few more or less, not now. Not now that he knows I'm attacking Horcruxes. Harry finished the sentence in his head. You're acting on Dumbledore's orders? She repeated with a look of dawning wonder. Then she drew herself up to her fullest height. We shall secure the school against he who must not be named. Will you search for this object? Is that possible? I think so, said Professor McGonagall dryly. We teachers are rather good at magic, you know. I'm sure we'll be able to hold him off for a while, if we put our best efforts into it. Of course, something will have to be done about Professor Snape. Let me. And if Hogwarts is about to enter a stage of siege with the Dark Lord at its gates, it would indeed be advisable to take as many innocent people out of the way as possible, with the Floo network under observation and apparition impossible within the grounds. There's a way, Harry said quickly, and he explained about the passage leading into the Hog's Head. Potter, we're talking about hundreds of students. I know, Professor, but if Voldemort and the Death Eaters are concentrating on the school's boundaries, they won't be interested in who's disapparating out of the Hog's Head. There's something in that, she agreed. She pointed her wand at the corals, and the silver net fell upon their bound bodies, tied itself around them, and hoisted it into the air, where they dangled beneath the blue-gold ceiling like two large, ugly sea creatures. Come, We must alert the others, heads of house. You better put your cloak back on. She marched towards the door, and she did so. As she did so, she raised her wand. From the tip burst 3 silver cats, with spectacle markings around their eyes. The patronesses ran sleekly ahead, filling the spiral staircases with silvery light as Professor McGonagall, Harry, Luna, all hurried back down. Along the corridors they raced, and one by one the Patronus left them. Professor McGonagall's tartan dressing gown rustled over the floor, and Harry and Luna jogged behind her under the cloak. They descended 2 more floors when another set of quiet footsteps joined theirs. Harry, whose scar was still prickling, heard them first. He felt in the pouch around his neck for the Marauder's map, but before he could take it out, McGonagall too seemed to become aware of the company. She halted and raised her wand, ready to do, and said, "Who's there?" "It is I," said a low voice, and from behind a suit of armor stepped Severus Snape. Hatred boiled up in Harry at the sight of him. He had forgotten the details of Snape's appearance and the magnitude of his crimes, forgotten how his greasy black hair hung like curtains around his thin face, how his black eyes had a dead, cold look. He was not wearing night clothes, but he was dressed in his usual black cloak. And he too was holding his wand ready for a fight. "Where are the Hallows?" he asked quietly. "Wherever you told them to be, I expect, Severus," said Professor McGonagall. Snape stepped nearer, and his eyes flitted from Professor McGonagall into the air around her as if he knew Harry was there. Harry held his wand up too, ready to attack. "I was under the impression that," said Snape, "that Electo had apprehended an intruder." "Really?" said Professor McGonagall. "And what gave you that impression?" Snape made a slight flexing movement with his left arm where the dark mark was branded into his skin. "Oh, naturally," said Professor McGonagall. "You Death Eaters have your own private means of communication. I forgot." Snape pretended not to have heard her. His eyes were still probing the air about her, and he was moving gradually closer with an air of hardly noticing what he was doing. "I did not know it was your night to patrol the corridors, Minerva." "You have some objection?" "I wonder what could have brought you out of your bed at this late hour." "I thought I heard a disturbance," said Professor McGonagall. "Really, all seems calm." Snape looked into her eyes. "Have you seen Harry Potter, Minerva? Because if you have, I must insist." Professor McGonagall moved faster than Harry could have believed. Her wand slashed through the air for a split second. Harry thought that Snape must crumple unconscious, but the swiftness of his shield charm was such that McGonagall was thrown off balance. She brandished her wand at a torch on the wall, and it flew out of its bracket. Harry, about to curse Snape, was forced to pull Luna out of the way of the descending flames, which became a ring of fire that filled the corridor and flew like a lasso at Snape. Then it was no longer fire, but a great black serpent that McGonagall blasted to smoke, which reformed and solidified in seconds to become a swarm of pursuing daggers. Snape avoided them only by forcing a suit of armor in front of him, and with an echoing clangs of daggers sank one after another into his breast. "Minerva!" said a squeaky voice, and looking behind him, still shielding Luna from flying spells, Harry saw Professor Flitwick and Sprout sprinting up the corridor toward them in night clothes, with the enormous Professor Slughorn panting along at the rear. "No!" squealed Flitwick, raising his wand. "You'll do no more! You'll do no more murder at Hogwarts!" Flitwick's spell hit the suit of armor behind which Snape had taken shelter, and with a clattering it came to life. Snape struggled free of the crushing arms and sent it flying back toward his attackers. Harry and Luna had to dive sideways to avoid it, as it smashed into the wall and shattered. When Harry looked up again, Snape was in full flight. McGonagall, Flitwick, and Sprout all thundering after him. He hurtled through a classroom door, and moments later he heard McGonagall cry, "Coward! Coward!" "What's happened? What's happened?" asked Luna. Harry dragged her to her feet, and they raced along the corridor, trailing the invisibility cloak behind them, into the deserted classroom where Professor McGonagall, Flitwick, and Sprout were standing at a smashed window. "He jumped," said Professor McGonagall, as Harry and Luna ran into the room. "You mean he's dead?" Harry sprinted to the window, ignoring Flitwick's and Sprout's yells of shock at his sudden appearance. "No, he's not dead," said Professor McGonagall bluntly. "Unlike Dumbledore, he was still carrying his wand, and he seems to have learned a few tricks from his master." With a tingle of horror, Harry saw in the distance a huge, bat-like shape flying through the darkness towards the perimeter wall. There was heavy footfalls behind them and a great deal of puffing. Slughorn had just caught up. "Harry," he panted, massaging his immense chest beneath his emerald green silk pajamas. "My dear boy, what a surprise! Minerva, do please explain. Severus, what?" "Our headmaster is taking a short break," said Professor McGonagall, pointing at the snake-shaped hole through the window. "Professor," Harry shouted, his hands at his forehead. He could see the inferi-filled lake sliding beneath him, and he felt the ghostly green boat bump into the underground shore, and Voldemort leapt from it with murder in his heart. "Professor, we've got to barricade the school. He's coming now." "Very well. He who must not be named is coming," she told the other teachers. Sprout and Flitwick gasped, and Slughorn let out a low groan. "Potter has to work to do in the castle on Dumbledore's orders. We need to put in place enough every protection of which we're capable while Potter does what he needs to do." "You realise, of course, that nothing we do will be able to keep you-know-who out indefinitely," squeaked Flitwick. "But we can hold him up," said Professor Sprout. "Thank you, Pomona," said Professor McGonagall, and between the two witches there passed a look of grim understanding. "I suggest we establish basic protections around the place, then gather our students and meet in the Great Hall. Most must be evacuated, though if any of them who are over age wish to stay and fight, I think they ought to be given the chance." "Agreed," said Professor Sprout, already hurrying towards the door. "I shall meet you in the Great Hall in 20 minutes with my house." And she jogged out of sight as they could hear muttering. "Tentacula, Devil's Snare, Snarlguff Pods. Yes, I'd like to see the Death Eaters fighting those." "I can act from here," said Professor Flitwick, and although he could barely see out of it, he pointed his wand through the smashed window and started muttering incantations of great complexity. Harry heard a weird rushing noise, as though Flitwick had unleashed the power of the wind into the grounds. "Professor," Harry said, approaching the little charms master. "Professor, I'm sorry to interrupt, but this is important. Have you got any idea where the diadem of Ravenclaw is?" "Protego horribilis, the diadem of Ravenclaw," squeaked Flitwick. "The Lecture of Wisdom never goes amiss, Potter, but I hardly think it is much use in this situation." I only meant, do you know where it is? Have you seen it?" "Seen it? Nobody's seen it in living memory. Long since lost, boy." Harry felt a mixture of desperate disappointment and panic. What then was the Horcrux? "We shall meet you and your Ravenclaws in the hall, Phyllis," said Professor McGonagall, beckoning to Harry and Luna to follow her. They had just reached the door when Slughorn rumbled into speech. "My word!" He puffed, pale and sweaty, his walrus mustache a-quiver. What to do? I'm not at all sure whether this is wise, Minerva. He's bound to find a way in, and you know anyone who has tried to delay him will be in grievous peril." "I shall expect you and the Slytherins in the Great Hall in 20 minutes or so," said Professor McGonagall. "If you wish to leave with your students, we'll not stop you. But if any of yours attempt to sabotage our resistance, or take up arms against us within this castle, then notice, we duel to kill." "Minerva," he said aghast. "The time has come for the Slytherin House to decide upon its loyalties," interrupted Professor McGonagall. "Go and wake your students, Horace." Harry did not stay to watch Slughorn sputter. He and Luna ran after Professor McGonagall, who had taken up a position in the middle of the corridor and raised her wand. Patron, oh, for heaven's sakes, Filch, not now! The aged caretaker had come hobbling into view, shouting, "Students out of bed! Students in the corridors!" "There's supposed to be a blithering in it," shouted McGonagall. "Now go and do something instructive. Find Peeves." "Peeves?" stammered Filch, as though he had never heard the name before. "Yes, Peeves, you fool! Peeves! Haven't you been complaining about him for a quarter of a century? Go and fetch him now at once." Filch evidently thought Professor McGonagall had taken leave of his senses, but hobbled away, hunch-shouldered, muttering under his breath. "And now, per cordon locomotor," cried Professor McGonagall, and all along the corridor the statues and suits of armour jumped down from their plinths, and from the echoing crashes from the floors above and below, Harry knew that their fellows throughout the castle had done the same. "Hogwarts is threatened," shouted Professor McGonagall. "Mind the boundaries. Protect us. Do your duty to your school." Clattering and yelling, the horde of moving statues stampeded past Harry. Some of them smaller, some larger, others larger than life. There were animals too, and the clanking suits of armour brandished swords and spiked bows on chains. "Now, Potter," said Professor McGonagall, "you, Miss Ludgood, had better return to your friends and bring them to the Great Hall. I shall rouse the other Gryffindors." They parted at the top of the next staircase, and Harry and Luna running back towards the concealed entrance of the Room of Requirements. As they ran, they met crowds of students who were wearing travelling cloaks over their pyjamas, being shepherded down to the Great Hall by teachers and prefects. "Was that Potter? Harry Potter? It was him! I just saw him, I swear!" But Harry did not look back. And at last they reached the entrance to the Room of Requirement. Harry leaned against the enchanted wall, which opened to admit them, and he and Luna sped back down the steep staircase. But as the room came into view, Harry slipped down a few stairs in shock. It was packed, far more crowded than it had last been when he was there. Kingsley and Lupin were there looking up at him, as were Oliver Wood, Katie Bell, Angelina Johnson, Alicia Spinnet, Bill and Fleur, and Mr. and Mrs. Weasley. "Harry, what's happening?" said Lupin, meeting him at the foot of the stairs. "Voldemort's on his what? Hang on a second. Got some reggae going on in the background. Not exactly the vibe for this chapter. I got the Vignesia tattoo with full understanding of the whole manuscript. It's not Viking, but still love its meaning. Well, let's see, there you go. Good night, Quirt. Rest well, my friend. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your evening. We're actually almost done. I think we're on the... We have like 4 pages left in this chapter, I think. That scene is better in the movie. I don't often say that it's cool. I would have to take your word for it. I don't know. I haven't seen the movie. Here, Totem, Locomotor, effing love it. Oh, no, it's a good thing I looked up because the ads are about to start. All right, friends over on Twitch, we're going to do ads real quick, and then we'll, because I'm definitely not going to be able to get done before the 5. So let's go ahead and run those real quick, and then we'll be back in 3 minutes, and then we won't be interrupted again for the rest of story time. So let's go ahead and get it done. Yeah, it is cooler in the movie. I would imagine that they probably focused a lot on this particular section for the movie because of the gravity that it has leading into the battle against Voldemort. Because this right now is sort of like, it's focused more on what Harry is needing to do than on what the school is having to do against Voldemort. So I would imagine that it was much more spectacle in the film, because that would have definitely been better for cinema. Having them all prepare for a war, you know what I mean? So I would imagine that it was probably something that they focused on a lot in the production. Movie night sometime, you know, I was gonna, after we were done with this, I was considering doing a movie marathon over in the guild where we all watch all of the Harry Potter movies. We were gonna do it at Halloween, and then I was gone for Halloween, so we didn't get a chance to. But if you guys want, after we finish this book, or even maybe next week every day we'll do a movie night next week, and we'll just watch all the way through as we're finishing up the last of the books. Honestly, why not? That would be fun. I love how the school is a personality all to itself, the room of requirement and the statues pre-existing. One of the best things that Rowling did, whether she knew it or not, was to make Hogwarts and the Hogwarts houses characters. Like, they are by far the most fleshed out and most intimate characters in the book. And again, I don't know if she meant to do that, but it was the most brilliant bit of writing that she did in the book. Was, wow, you guys have 21,000 likes over on TikTok. Thank you kindly for that, my friends. Yeah, I think it could be fun. Like, we could start next Monday, because the lady and I are going to be gone this weekend for some family things. But we could start on Monday and then go all the way up until next Sunday. And if we read Harry Potter every day, starting this Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, I mean, we could probably get through the rest of the book and get through all of the movies all in 1 week. Thank you, Bethany. I appreciate you. Thank you for that. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Because again, I haven't seen the 7th film. I haven't seen... Because they split it into 2 parts, didn't they? They did part 1 and part 2. Yeah, we got 2, 1. Alright, all of our friends over on Twitch should be back. Is it though? Mr. Tidio, what I was saying was that you're one of the best bits of writing that Rowling actually... Because I don't find Rowling to be a particularly good writer. The books are good. Like, the books overall are good. She did a good job with the world building. But one of the most brilliant bits of writing she did, because her character writing is not very good. Her world building is good. Which is why the book itself did so well, is because the world building is really fascinating. And her plot is not particularly cohesive either. But the best character writing that she did in the whole of the book was with Hogwarts and the Hogwarts houses. Like, the Hogwarts houses are essentially characters in the book, and Hogwarts itself is a character. And it's the best written of all of the characters. And she wrote the houses so well, she wrote the houses as characters so well, that people attached more to the houses. Like, people could maybe name 1 or 2 Hufflepuffs, right? But there are still people who will proudly call themselves a Hufflepuff, because they're attached to the house as a character. It's the same thing with Ravenclaw and with Slytherin. You could name very few people outside of Gryffindor, because most of the story takes place in Gryffindor house. But people are really, really attached to the characters of the houses. Looks different in the 7th movie from the first one, if you saw that one. I personally wasn't a fan of it. Yeah, I did. I saw all of them. I saw all of them up to the 6th one. I watched all of the movies and I read all of the books. The woman who I was with at the time, she was a huge fan of Harry Potter, and so I literally watched and read all of I watched all the movies with her. I had read all the books as they were coming out, but I had given up after the 6th one. I do remember what Flitwick looked like, and obviously we'll do a watch party next week. I don't remember it off the top of my head, but again, we're going to watch them all, so I'd be a Hufflepuff for sure. I am a Slytherin by every metric. Every test I've taken says I'm a Slytherin. Alright, let's get back into the story, friends. We're almost done. Voldemort's on his way here. They're barricading the school. Snape's run for it. What are you doing here? How did you know? Oh, we sent messages to the rest of Dumbledore's army. Fred explained. He couldn't expect everyone to miss the fun, Harry. And the DA let the Order of the Phoenix know. And it all kind of snowballed. What first, Harry? Said called George. What's going on? They're evacuating the younger kids, and everyone's meeting in the Great Hall to get organised, Harry said. We're fighting. There was a great roar and a surge toward the foot of the stairs. He was pressed back against the wall as they ran past him, the mingled members of the Order of the Phoenix Dumbledore's army and Harry's old Quidditch team, all with their wands drawn, heading up into the main castle. Come on, Lona, Dane called as he passed. Holding out his free hand, she took it and followed him back up the stairs. The crowd was thinning, and only a little knot of people remained below in the room of requirement. Harry joined them. Mrs. Weasley was struggling with Ginny. Around them stood Lupin, Fred, George, Bill, and Fleur.
You're underage,
Mrs. Weasley shouted at her daughter as Harry approached.
I won't permit it. The boys, yes, but you've got to go home.
I won't. Ginny's hair flew as she pulled her arm out of her mother's grip.
I'm in Dumbledore's army. A teenager's gang.
A teenager's gang that's about to take him on, which no one else has dared to do, said Fred.
She's 16,
shouted Mrs. Weasley.
She's not old enough. What are you two thinking, bringing her here with you?
Fred and George looked slightly ashamed of themselves. Mum's right, Jenny, Bill said gently. You can't do this. Everyone under age will have to leave. It's only right.
I can't go home. My whole family's here. I can't stand waiting there alone, not knowing and...
Her eyes met Harry's for the first time, and she looked at him beseechingly, but he shook his head, and she turned away bitterly.
Fine,
she said, staring at the entrance of the tunnel back to Hogshead.
I'll say goodbye now then, and...
There was a scuffling and a great thump. Someone else had clambered out of the tunnel, overbalanced slightly and fallen. He pulled himself up onto the nearest chair and looked around through lopsided horn-rimmed glasses and said,
Am I too late? Has it started? I only just ran out, so I...
Percy sputtered into the silence. Evidently, he had not expected to run into most of his family. There was a long moment of astonishment, broken by Fleur turning to Lupin and saying, in a wildly transparent attempt to break the tension,
So, how is little Teddy?
Lupin blinked at her, startled. The silence between the Weasleys seemed to solidify like ice.
Oh, yes, he's fine,
Lupin said loudly.
Yes, Tonks is with him, at her mother's.
Percy and the other Weasleys were still staring at one another frozen.
Here, I've got a picture,
Lupin shouted, pulling a photograph from inside of his jacket and showing it to Fleur and Harry, who saw a tiny baby with a little tuft of turquoise hair, waving his fat fists at the camera. I was a fool, Percy roared so loudly that Lupin nearly dropped his photograph. I was an idiot. I was a pompous prat. I was a ministry-loving, family-disowning, power-hungry moron, said Fred. Percy swallowed. Yes, I was. Well, you can't say fairer than that, said Fred, holding out his hand to Percy. Mrs. Weasley burst into tears and she ran forward, pushed Fred aside and pulled Percy into a strangling hug, while he patted her on the back, his eyes on his father. I'm sorry, Dad, Percy said. Mr. Weasley blinked rather rapidly, and then he too hurried to hug his son. What made you see sense, Percy? Inquired George. It's been coming on for a while, said Percy, mopping his eyes under his glasses with the corner of his travelling coat. But I had to find a way out, and it's not so easy at the Ministry. They're imprisoning traitors all the time. I managed to make a contract with Aberforth, and he tipped me off 10 minutes ago that Hogwarts was going to make a fight of it. So here I am. Well, we do look to our prefects to take the lead in times such as these, said George in a good imitation of Percy's most pompous manner. Now, let's get upstairs and fight, or all the good day it has been taken. So you're my sister-in-law now, said Percy, shaking hands with Fleur as they hurried off towards the staircase with Bill, Fleur, and George.
Ginny!
Barked Mrs. Weasley, and Ginny had been attempting, under cover of reconciliation, to sneak upstairs too. Molly, how about this? Why doesn't Jenny stay here? Then at least she'll be on scene and know what's going on, but she won't be in the middle of the fighting. That's a good idea, said Mr. Weasley firmly. Jenny, you stay in this room, you hear me? Jenny did not seem to much like that idea, but under her father's unusually stern gaze, she nodded. Mr. and Mrs. Weasley and Lupin headed off for the stairs as well. What's wrong? Asked Harry. Where's Hermione? They must have already gone up to the Great Hall already, Mr. Weasley called over his shoulder. I didn't see them pass me, said Harry. They said something about going to a bathroom, said Ginny, nodding. Not long after you left. A bathroom. Harry strode across the room to an open door leading off the room of requirements and checked the bathroom beyond. It was empty. You're sure they say, but his scar seared in the room of requirement vanished. He was looking through a high wrought iron gates with winged balls on a pillar at either side, looking through the dark grounds towards the castle, which was ablaze with lights. Nagini lay draped over his shoulders. He was possessed of that cold, cruel sense of purpose that preceded murder. And so ends chapter 30 of Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, my friends. What a legendary sprint we are on here today. Let me see. We are now 80% of the way through the book. We have almost exactly 90 pages left to go. So 3 nights of 30 pages each will get us all the way to the end. So let's see if because that's 20. That would be, yeah. So we do 2 tomorrow, or 2 on Sunday, 2 on Tuesday, and then 2 on Thursday. And that's the whole of the story. Let's do it. 1 week. I'm glad I stuck around. I'm glad you did too, Frost. Off to bed with you. Off to bed. Hagrid stabs his hand at the faculty dining table. Audiences thought he was still Professor Whitwick, so they kept the new look for Flitwick instead. Oh, I see. Yeah, Frost, off to bed with you, brother. I appreciate you sticking around. I appreciate all of the barkeeps who stuck around for us tonight. Chris, hello, my friend. It's good to see you. Wow, yeah. So, yeah, we're going to power through. So, we're on page 398. The last chapter is only 5 pages, so we have 97 pages left. So, we're basically doing 2 chapters a night to get all the way to the end. Wow. It's going to be a hell of a thing. Rachel, thank you kindly for the hard me. Bliss, thank you kindly for the hard me. Tips of the Tavern Keeper, always appreciated, my friend. I'm glad you could join us. So that means Sunday, I'll take the ladies' reading on Sunday. That way we can get through it. We'll do Sunday. We'll do 2 chapters. And then on... Oh no, we'll do 3 chapters on... Yeah. We'll do 3 chapters on Sunday, and then we'll do 2 chapters on Tuesday and 2 chapters on Thursday, and we'll have done it all in a week. And every night in the Discord, we'll go and we'll do a movie night, as if the lady has all the movies. I don't know if she has them all on DVD. I'll have to ask her. Do you have all of the Harry Potter films? Okay, excellent. So that we can probably do, and if not, we'll try it. I guess do they still do DVD rentals? Can you still get a DVD rental? Oh, that's true. We're at the library. I'd forgotten about that. I forgot libraries existed. Oh, I've missed everything. When will you be on next? Yeah, please. I thought you'd been in, and that's why you dropped a heartbeat, because it was the aim. No, I will be on Sunday. So Sunday will be starting sometime between. I'll try and get on as early as possible. So we'll say for Sunday, we'll aim for like 5:30 Pacific Standard Time, 5:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, I think. Mr. Tidio, it was wonderful to have you. I hope you become a regular. We'll look forward to seeing you back again. We do this 3 nights a week, and the community is trying to convince the lady and I to do some more games over on Twitch as well. So we might be doing more of those in the near future as well. No, I just joined it. I'm sorry, Bliss. I'm sorry to hear that. But no, we will be back on Sunday. We'll be on Sunday for the next chapter. And you didn't miss the big chapter. You're literally the big chapter, the Battle of Hogwarts, and the Elder Wand are the next 2 chapters. Chapter 31 and 32 are like the big action chapters of the book. So you'll be here for the big part. I missed a small part. Thank you, truly wonderful night of reading. We have all the Harry Potter series, Lord of the Rings, and The Hobbit. Yes, indeed. Okay, friends, my throat is worn out from all of their reading, so we're not going to do any songs tonight. But I am going to send our Twitch friends over to raid one of our other friends. But for everybody else, this is where we are going to part for the evening. I want to thank everybody who tipped the tavern keeper. I want to thank our lovely barkeeps for keeping everybody safe. I really have no excuse not to catch up on the ladies' last stream anymore. I mean, you could find one, but yes. Please take care. Of course. You guys know me. I always take excellent care of myself. Always take excellent care of myself. Good night to you and your family. God bless. Thank you so much, Bliss. I appreciate you. We'll look forward to seeing you on Sunday. 5:30 p.m. around about that part. I'll try and get a little earlier if I can. No, you didn't. All right, for anyone who is not in the Twitch portal, this is where we part for tonight, my friends. For everyone who is on Twitch, I'll let you guys know who we're going to raid. Thank you all so much for being here. It's wonderful to have you all. Thank you for spending your time with us here in the tavern. The time is the only thing you cannot get back, and I hope that when you spend it here, you feel like it was time well spent, my friends. And while it is sad that we must part, as it is such sweet sorrow to part, we will gather here once again when you all seek a story. So until then, my friends, I will bid you all stay bloodthirsty, and we will see you next time. Have a good night.
others?
Of past with abuse, you're doing really cool, complex topics. I don't want you to worry about being boring the readers. I really want you to really lean into all the cool stuff you're writing about. But also, get down, shields up. Hello and welcome, Raiders. It's so good to see you. And hey, welcome back, Black Dragon Tavern. I haven't scared them off yet. That's so exciting. So, fun fact, Matt Damon and Ben Affleck, Good Will Hunting, were shopping their script around. They wrote in a scene where Matt and Ben's characters